Hi, Kane.
All of us have our favorite sports teams that we all support, whether that be in football, basketball, soccer, or something else altogether. Now, my favorite sports team actually comes from the competitive esports game called League of Legends, and that team's name is TSM, or Team Solo Mid. Now, the term esports, we've all heard of that term in this class especially, but for those of you who don't remember what esports means, esports stands for electronic sports, or just another term for competitive gaming. Now, according to Nick Schwartz, a writer for USA Today Sports, the League of Legends World Championship had over 27 million viewers around the world. Now, surprisingly, that's more viewers than the NBA Finals got and the World Series. And according to Riot Games, the company behind League of Legends, over 67 million people around the world actually play their game. Now, that's a lot of people who are involved in esports in some sort of way. League of Legends isn't just the only esport out there. Now, I myself play League of Legends, and I actively keep up with the league competitive scene. And hopefully after listening to this speech, you'll perhaps give esports a try, and perhaps you'll start to like an esports scene. Now, first I'll talk about why esports is an actual sport. Second, about how esport players have more interactions with their fans compared to the traditional sports player. And lastly, about how easy it is to actually get into esports. Now, first I'll talk about why esports is an actual sport. Now, some people argue that esports isn't an actual sport, but in reality, it actually is. Some people think that esports is just a bunch of guys sitting in front of a computer playing a video game. And since that isn't physically interactive, it can't be considered a sport, but in reality it is. Now, that's not exactly why we watch sport, because of its physical activity. Now, according to TJ Haffer, a writer for PC Gamer, he stated that a sport in his YouTube video, Why You Should Get into Esports, as a competition between two very skilled opponents where they struggle for victory and where the outcome is never certain. Now, surprisingly, esport players and teams actually strategize in their games just like a football team, basketball team, or soccer team would in their games. And in any esports game, you can view a player in any situation, see that player make a decision in that situation, and see it all in real time. So now that I've talked about why esports is an actual sport, now I'll talk about why esport players are more interactive with their fans compared to the traditional sports player. Now, take my favorite team, TSM, an example. All the team members stream their games on twitch.tv, allowing players and fans alike to actually interact with the pro player themselves. Now, compared to traditional sports players, you don't really get to interact with them very much. To actually interact with them, you actually have to go through their games or perhaps meet them in person, but not many of us actually get to do that. However, in esports, you can actually watch a pro player stream their games on twitch.tv. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal, twitch.tv is the fourth most visited website on the web, and that it gets over 100 million viewers per month. There's a lot of people who pay attention to people who play online games compared to the people who actually pay attention to traditional sports. Now, through a streaming service like twitch.tv, people can actually build a personal connection with their favorite pro player. Since streaming is done from the comfort of one's own home, you can actually peer into the lives of a pro player and see how they interact with other players, people, instead of just viewing them on stage while they play their games. Now that I talked about why esports players have more interactions with their fans, now I'll talk about how easy it is to actually get into esports. Now, some people that argue that esports is really hard to get into say that there are too many buttons, too many characters, champions, or units, or that the strategy to actually play these games are too hard to understand, but that simply isn't true. Now, currently in the game I play, League of Legends, there are 124 champions, and each with 4 different abilities each. Now, that's a lot to actually grasp, but to actually learn a game, you actually have to play the game. Now, what makes esports so easy to get into is the fact that you have pro players on twitch.tv stream their games online, or you can just watch videos on like YouTube. Now, that's an individual perk that esports has that traditional sports don't really have. Now, you can't actually watch a football player or basketball player practice their own sport, but in esports, you can actually watch a pro player on Twitch.tv stream their games. Now, some people actually have the wrong mentality when they play an esport. They think that learning a computer game is a pain, but a game is a game. Games should be fun, and that really shouldn't change. In conclusion, I talk about esports and about how esports differs from your usual traditional physical sport. First, I talk about why esports is an actual sport. Second, about how esports players have more interactions with their fans compared to the traditional sports player. And lastly, about how esports is easy to get into. Now, games are games, so they should be fun. So if you're looking for something different than your usual traditional sport, give esports a try. And perhaps you'll start to like an esports team, just like I do. Thank you.